Hey man,
Hi,
how's it going?
I'm fine, thanks. And you?
Yeah, good, awesome.
Yeah.
I just broke my tripod, so
Oh,
I will
damn.
not be using the headphones today. But
Okay.
that's fine. That's fine. That's fine.
Yeah, it works.
It works. It
Yeah.
works exactly. So,
And I'm totally burned out by the sun. We have summertime in Denmark at the moment.
oh
So
yeah,
it's amazing.
it is
So,
amazing.
white Scandinavian people go out in the sun without sunscreen on and you get just roasted big time. That's every single year. It happens over and over again.
You've been out on the water lately?
Yeah, we're in the weekend a few days ago.
Yeah,
Coastal fishing. Yeah.
yeah.
Uh, Coastal
Uh,
fishing and had a fishing trip for a few days with some good friends. And I guess we had a little bit more to drink than we actually caught a fish, but we enjoyed it big time. Had a fantastic time. And it might be the coloring due to the sun out there.
I
But
got you.
yeah, it's nice. Fantastic to be out there.
Yeah, I can only
Yeah.
imagine. So, what were you targeting for in this trip?
Uh, Mainly sea run browns, sea trouts. It's the Danish fishing on sea trouts on the coastal fishing is fantastic, and it's top time at the moment now. And then we have needlefish, garfish. They have just arrived at the coastal, so that's fun to go fishing for them. You can do that in the summer in the good sunshine, and in the afternoon you would go sea trout fishing. But we only had success with the garfish this time. But
All right,
yeah, the
that's
sea
pretty
trouts
cool.
we'll go back to them later on.
All
So
right, that's
yeah,
pretty cool.
yeah,
Sounds good.
yeah,
I was in,
fantastic.
I was in, yeah, I was in the Três Marias Reservoir. It's by the San Francisco River Basin here in Brazil. And
Okay,
we were fishing for blue peacock bass and the
yeah,
yellow one. There's about 15 species, but these range from about like the biggest one is which are the blues in these two species.
yeah.
It goes for about 9 pounds.
Okay,
So
okay,
it was pretty cool. I didn't catch any biggie ones, but it was quite a lot of fun.
yeah,
And the reservoir this year in Brazil, it rained a lot, even
mm,
in the southeast.
yeah.
So the reservoirs are like they're reaching the trees. It's pretty nice. Pretty
Okay,
nice. We
that's
had
what.
like a 4 to 5 year big dry season.
Mm,
So reservoirs were like it was ugly. It was ugly. It was like you see the big banks and the trees were way up ahead, few
yeah,
water. But now
yeah.
it's there's life on it. There's
Okay,
life on it.
great. That's one of
Yeah.
my favorite fish. Never fished for those, but I'm going one day.
Oh
It's
yeah, you gotta
so
go
so
to the jungle.
beautiful fish. Yeah,
Yes, you gotta go to the
yeah,
jungle for the big
yeah,
ones. For
yeah.
sure.
That would be amazing.
Awesome. So just for info, this conversation of ours will be displayed on YouTube, my
Yeah,
YouTube channel.
yeah.
Later on, it will be available for listeners on Spotify, Deezer, iTunes, and SoundCloud.
Okay.
It will be within a week. We'll
Yeah,
add it and
yeah,
play
yeah,
it. So yeah, man.
yeah,
Thanks for coming. Thanks for joining. I'm a
yeah.
nobody,
Absolutely
but
welcome.
thanks for being here. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
awesome. Very
I'm
nice of
also
you.
nobody. I'm just Dr. Hook, as I call myself.
That's pretty cool. Yeah,
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah.
So, why don't you tell us a little bit about your background? How did you start fishing? Who did influence you? And how did you get into fly fishing, or if it was straight away into fly fishing?
Yeah, but actually, I went fishing with my dad when I was like 7 years old. We went fishing in the local stream, and it kind of like just got my attention. Just this water and what's underneath the surface, and exploring that, and then yeah, you become a teenager and starting playing football and everything else, and then suddenly, when I was 14, 15, I started fishing again. And
All right.
and then I went to this local stream and I caught some of my first brown trouts. Some small ones, but they were brown trouts, and that was one of my dream fish. And I remember I saw a fishing magazine, and they had this small beetles, flies, and bees And I thought, well, could you make those yourself? And I went back home and I found some ugly hooks and some ugly thread and some ugly wool, and put some feathers on a hook and kind of like tried to make it. Oh, fantastic. And then I tried to make these bees, and they look like, shit. but
Yeah,
but again,
yeah.
I kind of like got the attention of it, and started to, when you, at that time you went to the library and borrowed some books, and there was these old images of photos and drawings of hooks, and they kind of like showed how to put the wool on and how to put the feathers on, and I kind of like, well, that's amazing, this part. And then it just expanded from there. Got my first fly rod a few years later on, and until then I've been fishing flies with just my spinning rod and 5 meters of line. That's what I was capable of throwing out. But I caught some small fish, and it kind of like, it got that. But then getting the first fly rod and fly line and fly reel, and kind of like getting into this stuff, it was just amazing. Like everybody else has tried that. The first fish you actually feel taking your fly, feeling the tension of your line, you get the snack on your fingers. That's just okay. I'm off to this. Yeah. No more spin fishing.
No more spin fishing. That's
No.
right. Yeah.
Well, I do spin fish, and I like it a lot, but just the tension in the line when you kind of like hit a salmon hits the fly, or a big pike, or like your bass, it's just impossible to explain. It's just fantastic.
Different thing, right?
Yeah, and then I grew up and continued tying flies, and actually did that big time, and ended up here like 25 years later on designing fly hooks and making it a living out of it. Have created my own brand together with some good friends, and that's just amazing to be able to do that instead of
So take us. Yeah, that's awesome. Take us to the background of Ahrex hooks, or how do you guys?
We call it Ahrex.
Ahrex.
Ahrex. Yeah.
Ahrex.
I've been. I'm a graphic designer. And I've been working with that for 15 years, by the way. And then I had a friend who had a company, and they were selling fly tying equipment, feathers, furs, hackles, hooks, whatever to tie your flies on. Selling it to the shops, and he's been complaining about the delivery of hooks. It's been impossible to get a hold on the big or the best hooks available. It's always difficult. So we kind of like talked, and on a fishing trip we talked about, why don't we make the hooks ourselves? I said, well, could we do that? Yeah, we might. And he started to check it out, and actually found a manufacturer of hooks that was willing to work with us. Yeah. And we started up with just a single hook. We're both fishermen on the coastal fishing in Scandinavia for sea trouts, and we thought, well, we need this curved shrimp pattern hook. And we made some sketches out of it, and I said, well, this could actually be very cool. We had a hook on the market that was perfect for the job, but it was very difficult to get a hold on. So that's what actually started the business up. And then and then we got the samples of this hook and said, well, this is actually pretty cool. And we got in contact with some of the local shops who was asking for this hook all the time, and said, well, if we needed to improve this hook in a way, what would it be? And they said, well, if you actually can improve this one, give it a little bit of bend and make it this and this. And we actually ended up with a coastal hook as the first product in our assortment, and it actually became a hit because you could actually get it in the shops, and people loved the hook. And we looked at ourselves and said, well, should we make some more? And why don't we make a straight-eyed streamer hook? Why don't we make a big hook for pikes. We love pike fishing as well. And
Yeah.
why do we make this and this and this? And suddenly we ended up with almost 300 different hook styles at the moment. So
That's fantastic.
yeah, and we started like in 2016, so 4 years ago. We had this conversation and launched the first few models in our program, and yeah, and now it's just amazing. And I think people like our hooks because you can actually get the hooks in the shops. You can go into a shop and probably they don't know our brand, but most of them have heard about us and know that they make some good hooks, and you can get them in the shops, and that's been a very good thing.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Another thing is
how many founders?
We are 3 founders of the company.
Fantastic.
Yeah. So started up in a very small business and kind of like built it a little bit up, and we didn't expect it to go as rapid as it has been, because it's been growing very big. I started working part-time for like 1.5 years ago, and I started working full-time for almost a year ago now. So it's kind of like just kept on rolling, and we have been lucky to place a hook brand in the market that people actually demanded. And then my colleague Morten is a very well-known fly fisherman in Scandinavia, and he's an excellent photographer, and he likes to take photos of flies, which you've already possibly seen in Instagram and stuff like that. And he's just a wizard with his camera, so he can actually make the flies look fantastic.
I frequently see a lot of great pictures on Ahrex hooks profile. They're awesome. Yeah. I did share with the Brazilian audience that I was going to interview you. And they're like, Drigo, that's amazing. Because of the time frame, right now in Brazil is like 3:45 p.m. So it's kind of hard for the audience to participate. But I'm quite sure everybody's going to tune in later on.
I hope so.
Get you know a little bit better and get some quality information from you. We even have some questions already. I'll get into those later on.
Just shoot them up.
All right. So what kind of materials that are being used in the Ahrex hooks? Is any specific line? You just give us some technical aspects on this.
Actually, our hooks are being made in China at a big factory out there, but it's actually the steel. It comes from Norway.
All right.
Norway is close to Denmark, and it's actually the Norwegian mountains. They actually take out the iron, make it to a wire, and then ship it to the factory in China, which then makes the hooks. We don't make the hooks ourselves. Because a factory for hooks is, it's very, very expensive to make that. But we have these good connections, and they have been making fly hooks for like over 100 years and have a fantastic quality. So we thought that would be a perfect match for us to team up with them. So they make the hooks, we make the design of the hooks. That's our own, and then they produce the hooks for us. But it's made by Norwegian steel. So that's kind of like this Scandinavian style of hooks, we like to call it.
I understand.
So we get we started up with an idea of a hook. We would like to have a dry fly hook or a hook for big trouts or pikes or sea coastal fly fishing or whatever it is. And then sometimes we team up with some good friends of ours, or people kind of like ship a lot of emails to us asking for a specific hook for this type of fishing or this species that's super strong or whatever it is. So we kind of like build up a program with hooks, both from our own ideas and by customers demanding. And when we hear over and over again the same type of style for a fly hook being asked for, we kind of like say, well, people are interested in this one, so that's we're gonna go for that one. Awesome. At the start, we make the safe runs of the fly hooks, you know, the dry fly hook and a streamer hook and etc. But then when we kind of like have those in the stock, we start building up with new brands or new styles of hooks, and we had we have a very good friend in Sweden, a Swedish fly fisherman, Andreas Andersson, he's called. I haven't seen a fly tie make flies like him. It's amazing. Kind of like he makes these. He's called this a sit. It's a articulated fly.
All right.
And it has this specific head with you can see it has a slightly bent down.
All right.
And he asked us to make a hook for this type of flies. And he's fantastic fly tie and a very nice person as well. So we hang out a lot of time with him. And he asked us to make a fly hook with a slightly curved bent down to get the shape of the head.
Yeah.
See, it's kind of like go down here. And we said, well, what should it be? And he said, well, make it a 26-degree bent down. And I said, well, and what's the shape of the hook and how do you like it? And he sent me some photos and some styles, and he had a hook he has shaped himself by pliers and kind of like a prototype. And he shipped it to me, and I made a drawing of it and shipped it back to him. And he said, well, the bend of the hook is perfect, the point is perfect, the eye is perfect, but the angle is you haven't hit that one perfectly. It's 28 degrees. You need to make it 26.
Kidding me, right? Wow.
I made it. I measured it on my program, and I said, well, he's actually right. It's 28
he's
degrees.
He's actually right.
Yeah, so I made it 26 degrees, and he came up with this hook. And that's the TP 650, 26 degrees bent, we call it, because just to make sure.
I got one of those,
yeah. Yeah, and that's one of the stories where he's actually came up with the whole idea of the hook and the idea with the shape, the bend out here, and it's actually been, we thought, okay, we're gonna sell a few packs of those, and that's it. But it's been a success. People love the style because he makes those fantastic flies, and it looks, his deer work is out of this world. But that's how we often make hooks.
Develop new hooks.
Combined with some very skilled people, because I consider myself as a skilled fisherman and a fly tyer, but in some aspects I'm not. I'm just a rookie. In the question like this, where he's actually well known for fishing very big trouts in Sweden and Norwegian rivers, and he's kind of like developed this style of fishing with this monster big flies for very big trouts. Mm-hmm. In my mind, when I started this, big trout flies were streamers size 2-4 max. That was a big trout fly, but in his head, it's a 4.0 and on an articulated streamer, and with a 2.0 hook.
These trouts might be quite feisty.
Yeah, but he said, well, look at the trout. It eats. A spin fisherman catches very big trouts on wobblers and lures and stuff like that. That's true. Yeah, you're fishing a small spinner, and you can actually catch a very small trout. You can't even imagine how is it possible to open the mouth that big that you can actually inhale a spinner, but they do. And he said, well, just think it bigger. Big flies, big fish. And he's right.
All right, that's pretty cool. So, let's get some questions here.
So that's the way we actually develop the hooks, and then and some of them is our own, and some we team up with buddies and listen to what people actually is asking for, and often we make some good results that way. That's pretty cool.
Dan asked us, I would like to know from him actually how many different types of hooks they manufacture.
The factory?
About
we have in our program we have close to 300 series.
close to 300. Damn.
Yeah, yeah, and that's we have hooks for coastal fishing, salmon and sea trout hooks. We have pike flies, and then we have this freshwater series, dry flies, nymphs, wet flies, and we make all of those barbless and barbed. So you can actually choose if you want to have a barb on your hook or if you want to have it barbless. So, and we have a lot of hooks in that series and double it up, barbed and barbless. So it's getting quite big. Yeah. So close to 300 different styles. Yeah.
Cool. PH Dos Pereira asked us, please ask him what is the difference between his hooks than the Japanese hooks. Cultural difference. I don't know, man. Just
it's our hooks are actually known for being not as super hard tempered as many Japanese hooks are. You often see Japanese hooks, if you try to squeeze down the barb on a Japanese hook, it often breaks. Some rivers in Denmark, you're not allowed to fish with a barbed hooked. And in other places in the world as well. Yep. And we can actually, on our hooks, they're not as hot tempered, so you can actually squeeze down the barb. You can actually press it all the way down instead of trying to push it down and it breaks. And it means that the hook is hardened very, very, very hard. Yeah. Which makes it super strong to a certain point, and then it breaks. Our hooks, they can straighten a little bit out, and you can actually squeeze them back down and continue fishing with them.
That's because of the heat and temperature that
yeah, okay. Absolutely. Otherwise, it's a very good quality. The factory have been doing a very big task on making all the hooks tempered in the same way. It takes a lot of time and a lot of development to make the machines able to do that, and they have actually succeeded that. And we, of course, you can break one of our hooks, and I've tried it as well. It's impossible to avoid that, but it's very, very rare that we hear that people have actually straightened out a hook of ours, and you can actually and if it happens, you can actually squeeze it back down again or push it back down. So that's one of the good things about our hooks.
Perfect. Could you talk to us about, let's say, if I were a beginner, I'd like to know a little bit about hooks, morphology, anatomy, gap, kinds of eyes, the length of the, just the general aspect of the hook.
Yeah.
Just to give a brief for a beginner, if we can do it sort of like in an explanation way that the listeners could understand a little bit. For example, if I am to go fishing for trout using a small dry fly, it's the small things that are falling into the water, for example. What kind of hook should I be using for nymph? And we go from there.
Yeah.
One more general aspect.
If we take a style like our freshwater series, which contains dry fly hooks, nymph hooks, wet fly hooks, kind of like made up for fishing trouts and graylings and trouts in rivers. We developed that style or that line of hooks together with some good friends in Norway, as well as the story I told you just a few minutes ago. And we talked with this guy, and he said, well, a big problem about very small dry fly hooks is that they are so super thin, and the eye of the hook is so super narrow. So it's very difficult to put it on your leader, especially when it's getting dark and stuff like that. So all our freshwater hooks is actually made with a quite big eye on the hooks. And some people complain about it, but when they have just tied the fly and went fishing with it, they say, well, okay, that's a good thing because I can actually put the leader through the eye of the hook. That's one of the good things about our freshwater series. Otherwise,
Nice.
we made this line. We started building up, putting more models in the program, just all the time. But at a starting point, we said, well, we need a dry fly hook, a standard dry fly hook, just like very slightly curved down eye, a nice bend, a little bit thicker wire than many of the hooks you can actually find on the market at this point. Because with it, well, we would like to have the fish in the net or in the hand. So we kind of like built the hook a little bit thicker just to make sure that you can actually get the fish into your net. And then we built it up with the nymph hook, and we made a wet fly hook just for starters up, and put a lot of hooks in between there. And then at the same time, we had people saying, well, you need to make a very small hook for midge flies. And and
you added
it's
those?
just, we added those, and had to talk to the people again and say, well, what are your preferences on making very small hooks for, how should I design it? And he said, well, make it a straight eye, or make the bend a little bit wider, because you can actually fill up the hook with a lot of material, dubbing or whatever it is you need there. So and then there's this whole sizing issue, which we have been discussing it over and over again at the office and at shows and fairs and all that, because people they can take one of my dry fly hooks and say, well, you call this a size 14, but it's actually closer to a size 16 if I compare it to this brand.
Off this one. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I got you. Yeah.
And that's very difficult. But we kind of like the sizing. When I make a new model of hook, I measure it up against some of our other hooks and say, well, a size 4 should have the same measurement in the gap as our size 4 of a coastal hook or a salmon hook or whatever it is. So you can actually have the same sizing in the gap of the hook.
What defines the hook of being a size, for example, size 4? Is there a definition? Classical definition?
There is a very, very old definition, but you can actually say that this whole system is kind of like upside down, because the smallest hook I have in my fly tying gear, and I haven't tied a fly with it, that's a size 32.
32. Wow.
Yeah. It's a small plastic box, and inside that small plastic box there's a small plastic bag with the hooks in, because otherwise it would just disappear. And then you can actually take the hook numbers, the sizing of the hooks is actually, the bigger the hooks are being, the smaller number the hook is called. And then you'll go all the way up to a size 1. And then they said, well, what should we do now? I have a bigger hook. Well, let's call it a size 0 or a 1.0 or 2.0. And then it starts going up again. And that's so it's actually quite difficult to explain the sizing of the hooks. I often say to people, well, have a look at our website, because we call them prospects. I've made a drawing of all the hooks, and I've put small measurements in with the hook length and the hook gap and the sizing, all the sizes you can get the hook in, because you can actually sit down and you can measure on your own hooks and say, well, I like this size 14 of this brand, and it's 14.3 millimeters long. What does Ahrex have a hook close to this one? And so that's a reference guide on sizing the hooks, because it's very difficult. And I get this problem all the time, because what's the size? What's the size 4.0?
Classical one,
yeah. But
all right. Yeah, cool. One of our listeners asked us, and that's one of the topics that we will be discussing. Just let's advance on that. and
Yeah.
ask, what kind of tips would you give to newcomers into fly fishing? There was one tip, or even more than one tip.
Yeah.
What would you give yourself if you went back in time? What kind of piece of advice would you give to yourself as a fly fisherman?
Of course, when you start fishing, and when you start fishing with the fly rod, and you catch your first fish on that one, just be so happy about getting the fish in the net or in your hand, instead of going further on, catching bigger fish, more fish, and all this. I've seen it, with all this social media stuff. People, they just wants to go ballistic on getting this super big fish
for the new photo.
For the photo fish. Yeah, I was fishing with my buddies in this weekend, and I was the last one to catch a needlefish on the first day. And a buddy of mine, he screamed to me, "Oh, that's important. That's a very important fish to get." And I said, "Well, why? Why is it important?"
Fine.
Yeah, because you have one also. All three of us have caught a fish now. Yeah. That's right. I love to catch a fish, of course. That's part of why I'm out there. But just to enjoy this type of, you can go out in the nature. You can actually empty your head. You can enjoy the fishing. You can, if you're lucky, skilled, you can actually catch a fish and just enjoy that part of it. You don't need to go for the big ones at the start. I need to say that because, of course we love to go fishing for the big ones, but
enjoy
just,
each moment. You're up in the picture.
Yeah.
That's the whole point of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Otherwise you're connected to nothing. You're just aiming for...
Yeah.
And you're stressed about, I didn't get the picture. I didn't get the fish for the picture.
Yeah.
No, go out there and enjoy nature, right?
Yeah.
That's what we love.
Yeah. I love to go out there and just, spend the time, and I can come back home and people ask me, "Well, did you catch anything?" Nope. Wait, what? But what did you do then? Just had a fantastic time. Yeah.
Yep. That's the whole point of it. That's the whole point.
Yeah.
Fantastic. That's great. Great piece of advice.
Yeah.
So let's jump back into the hook section of our conversation. You guys have both freshwater and saltwater, right?
Yeah.
Hook.
Yeah.
What would differ them in the components? What do you guys apply in your components on the hooks that differ them from the traditional freshwater hooks? Is there something that you'd like to share with us?
Yeah, actually, the material is the same for all our hooks. It's just the diameter of the wire being used to make the hooks. But the basic hook is made of the same type of steel all around. And then we have freshwater hooks. Almost every freshwater hooks we have are made by or have a black nickel finish. This small shiny black coloring, and then we launched a series of saltwater hooks for tropical saltwater fishing last year, and they have had a totally new finish from the factory, which turns out to be fantastic and super strong against salt in the water. They don't get broken as much as I've been fishing tropical some time now, and every time I go out on a trip, when I get back home, I just take all my flies out and say, well, yeah, that's it, and make some new ones for the next trip, because black nickel hooks often rust quite fast because of this tropical salt water. But these new hooks have a very, very strong surface, and it's they kind of like they do the trick now. So that's
specific coating. Is it a specific coating? You don't have to mention the material.
It's a new coating.
Okay.
It should be more than 10 times stronger than our standard black nickel coating, which also is very good at coastal fishing. I use it a lot here in Scandinavia, and works very good. But this new coating is super strong. So
is it on the market already?
Yeah, it is on the market. Yeah, we called it the
model for the audience.
Yeah, we have
on this new sample hooks.
Yeah, I have. We called it the Salt. Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
And we have made them in, of course, in small sizes and in big sizes as well. This is a
nice gap. Yeah.
Yeah, a very strong hook.
What's the number of it, or the model again? Sorry.
This one is SA 270. We call it the Blue Water.
The Blue Water.
Yeah. And we make this up to a size 8.0 for GTs and Marlins and the Loch Ness Monster.
Right, that's cool. Hook on. Yeah. Fantastic. That's great. How many countries are you guys distributing your hooks to? Mostly Europe. Are you reaching US already? What is it?
Yeah, we started up in Scandinavia, and of course we have Denmark, Sweden, Norway, and Germany, and then we were lucky to get contact to US, and had a big supply over there, distributing our hooks, and we have contacts in Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, Japan, and kind of like we have hit
South America. Not yet.
We have a few hooks going to the South America. It's it's a little bit different and a little bit difficult to get them in there, but we feel that it's kind of like going the right way now. So hopefully they'll be able to get our hooks in South America as well.
The market is like, I wish I could get some of the audience. They already mentioned it. I wish you got some hands on the hooks. I want the hooks. They want it. They want it. It was just something. It will come in time, right? It will come in time.
It will. But we've been lucky and done our job in a good way. So we've gained quite a lot of different countries to carry our hooks on. So very pleased with that. But hopefully soon we'll be worldwide. But I think we're close to be worldwide. And with the internet and the online shops all around, I would say it's possible to get our hooks in almost every country now.
Perfect.
So, yeah.
So is there a series of hooks specifically with stronger? In small size, they're very strong model series that you'd like to recommend to the listeners, because sometimes people are fishing for big trouts with very tiny little, scuds and what have you, ball flies, and they want this specific, very strong small hook. Yeah, there are series that you recommend.
Yeah, we have a series of hooks in our freshwater series. We call it the curved nymph. It's quite thick wired. A short nymph hook, slightly curved, and it makes a fantastic hookup on the fish. I would recommend that one. And then, of course, we have some wet fly hooks, which also is quite strong. And then in our dry fly hooks, we have a dry fly hook we call dry fly light. But otherwise, as I said earlier on, many of our hooks is because of the tempering of the hook. We have made them a little bit thicker than many of the other hooks on the market, because it's only a problem if you tie these super thin bodied dry flies. You need to have a very light hook, and that's why we have made a hook for this specific type of fishing. Otherwise, with a little bit of foam on your dry fly, you can actually get quite a big hook to float. So we would like to have people a positive experience using our hooks and getting the fish in, which is the main purpose of it, instead of straighten out a hook. That's we've all tried to have a big dry fly and a big brown trout, sipping it, and we hit it, and which it straightens out.
Not cool.
we know the feeling, so we don't want to go there.
Poor fishermen. So, fantastic.
Yeah. So we have made some hooks in a thicker wire just to get attention on the fish when it's finally hitting the fly on.
Perfect. Any indications for salmon hooks? Swinging and streamers.
Of course, we are Danish-based or Scandinavian-based, and salmon fishing is a very big part in Denmark and rest in Scandinavia, Sweden and Norway. That's actually Norway is where all of this salmon fishing actually started. So that's a big part of us. And we have this thing that we often fish with the double hooks in the rivers up here. We have single salmon hooks as well. But double hooks is very popular in both in Denmark and in Norway and in Sweden. And a lot of people are fishing with tube flies, where you can actually change the hook. So instead of tying a fly on a hook, and if you hit a rock or anything that you break the hook, you need to drop the fly and put in a new one. But fishing with a tube, where you actually have a plastic tube, put it on the leader, and then attaching a fly hook at the end. And in Scandinavia, we often use treble hooks and double hooks, and of course single hooks. So we have made hooks for that as well, and that's a popular
triple and double hooks as well. Double hooks are quite special.
And then we have single hooks for the tube flies as well. And then at that point, we have made the hooks, the eye of the hook, smaller, because you need to put it up in the plastic tube. Yes. So that's one of the only hooks where I actually make the hooks as small as possible. Otherwise, we make them quite big to put on the leader. One of the first hooks we designed for that type is we call it the Home Run 420 progressive double. Yeah. Because we're so Scandinavia focused, so we kind of like say, well, salmon and sea trout. That's what we go for fishing the streams. But there is this fish called the steelhead, and and all this different styles of salmon all around the world. You have some fantastic salmons as well down at your place, and some fantastic steelhead fishing, I think. So we called it the Home Run, because of the migration of the fish going back to the streams to spawning seasons. So, but we made this hook, the 420 progressive double, which is a slightly curved hook instead of just a straight hook. We have made it slightly curved because I like salmon flies myself, and I like to tie them classic styles, with the blind eye hooks and all these fancy materials, and spending hours and hours behind the vise and never put the fly in the water. That's I like that. It's probably because of my graphic designer background. I like to put the colors in and make this.
I understand.
Take the time to spend a day on a hook and not throwing it in the water. Many people don't get that point, but when they see the fly, you can actually see, that's kind of like,
it's an art.
It's an art, absolutely, and we designed that hook because I had in my mind this, when I tie my salmon flies on double hooks, I like the idea of using long feathers, spay hackles, and this traditional style, and we needed to have this slightly curved hook for that part. We have a straight hook as well, and we have a classic, a classic double hook, thin wired for low water flies, and but the progressive double is one of the hooks I'm I'm quite fond about that, because that's one of the ideas of my own, actually.
Could you repeat the motto for us again, for the listeners?
HR 420 progressive double. Yeah,
perfect.
So that's one of my favorites for that part. And we put the hooks for intruder, flies, and stinger styles, and all that as well. And had some. Yeah, I haven't been steelhead fishing myself, but I put some hooks in the hands of some of my buddies that went to British Columbia to go steelhead fishing, and they had good success with that one. It's a very difficult fish to hook, they say, but they managed to get some hooks in some big steelheads and get them in the net, so they're very satisfied with the hook as well. Yeah.
Cool. Perfect.
Yeah.
Any advices you would like to give for beginners who are initiating on trout fishing?
On trout fishing, if I were going trout fishing, I would probably go being ready to spend a lot of time on the streams. And I love to dry fly fish. Dry fly fishing is, I love that part. And then again, put in your mind that you need to spend a lot of time on the water in search of this fantastic fish. And you can actually see it rising in the water, and just sit down and wait until the fish is rising steadily. And just the moment when you actually put the fly out and you hit the right way and the fish takes the fly, and then what size of the fish, it doesn't matter. Just seeing this small fish getting up and eating a fly, that's the best. I like grayling fishing. We have a lot of graylings in Scandinavia, and it's a fish that's often, it likes to take the flies on the surface, and because of the mouth underneath, so it actually needs to take the fly in a fantastic way. You actually see the big fin it has on the back. Beautiful colored fish. And
colorful, yeah.
Yeah, I love graylings. That's fantastic. So enjoy the part of not focus on size on the trouts. Just try to get it on the dry fly. That will be my best shot for that part.
Awesome. Any series of hooks would you like to recommend for surface flies? Poppers, gurglers, something?
Yeah. Again, I would say combined with this, I told the story about this one made by our Swedish friend, and he's a fantastic guy of making a deer hair box, with stacking deer hair and cutting it in all these fantastic ways and colors and bearings and spots and whatever he could make it. And besides of making this one with the slightly curved, he's made some Aberdeen style hook as well, and they are fantastic. And we made those up to a size 6/0, so you can actually make some very big poppers on that one. That would be a super sweet all-round hook for surface fishing. One of the first type of hooks we made for surface fishing was we put it in our Predator series, which we made for pike and perch in Denmark. And one of the hooks is this one. Let's see if I could put it there.
That's the trout predator?
That's actually a Predator style. Okay. We call it, but it could as well have been in the trout Predator. But we made this Predator series before we made the trout Predator series. And this one is also one, we had a good friend of ours who made the drawings for this one, and had some very good ideas about how to make this hook and the shape and all the stuff there. And this one we made as well in both barbed and barbless, and we call this one Predator, Light Predator.
Light Predator, okay.
Light Predator. PR it's 350, and then 351 we often put we have a straight number for the barb version of the hooks. For this one, 350. That's a barbed version, and 351 for the barbless.
The one for the okay.
Yeah, and it goes the same in the freshwater series as well, where we have put FW 502, which is the dry fly light, we call it, and then 503, which is the barbless version of it. So the models we made, barbless and barbed, are numbered in that way. But this one for surface, that would be my favorite, and for poppers and stuff like that. And if you need, but it's a thin wired hook, so yeah, we made this one for surface flies. But if you need to go for the big fish, or your bass or whatever you have down there, it's super strong, and a lot of weed and snacks they could go into. Just put the 610 in the Trout Predator series on. That's gonna do the job. That's a super strong one.
It did. I already did.
Yeah, fantastic.
It did the job. We're gonna send you guys some photos. Yep.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to that.
Yep. For aspiring entrepreneurs that dream on to get into the fly fishing market in some way, since you have a successful company that expanding worldwide, what kind of tips, insights would you like to give to the audience about this?
When I look back at my background, I started out because I've always been tying flies, and I had the interest in fly fishing, fly tying, and then my way into this business was that I started up as working as graphic designer, so you can actually combine those two things in a way. I'm not the salesman, but I'm the graphic designer in the company. So besides making the graphics and stuff for shows and advertisements and videos and all that stuff, I can actually tie some flies myself. So I know how to make a fly. And that's been my way into this market. And then some good connections and be nice to people. It often pays back, and it has paid back to me. My colleague, the owner of the company, is the one that actually taught me to tie flies when I was young. I went to this. We had this school lessons on the evening. One day every week we went to this school. We had this fly tying lessons, and he was actually the teacher of it. And now we've built this company up. So
Fantastic.
Skills and and use whatever things you have in combining with your interest in the business. That's been my way into this part. And then there's a good idea and being at the right spot at the right time, which we did with the hooks, because there was a demand on hooks on the market, and we made the hooks, and that's the way it worked for us. Yeah.
Nice. You've mentioned lessons. You mentioned, and some of the audience listener asked, what is your thoughts on courses? Did you attend any courses, casting courses, or was it just lessons, a tutor? What's your mind on regarding these courses of casting or courses?
Yeah, actually, one of my very good friends is he's a very skilled fly fisherman and a fly tying casting instructor, and he can teach everybody to make the perfect cast with a fly rod. Henrik Mortensen, he's called, and he has been he's a fantastic guy with a double hand rod in his hand and a single hand as well. And I started fishing with a single hand rod for like 1,000 years ago, and I taught fly casting myself. I've been looking on some photos in old magazines and old videos, and I started that's the way. So I learned fly casting myself, with the benefits and the not so good things. on teaching herself. And he's actually, we often laugh at it because he said, I've attended one of his casting courses for double hand rods. And he said, well, you can actually, I'm very fast at learning double hand casting. And he said, well, you're actually a good double hand caster, but you are so terrible with a single hand. I need to stand right next to you and say, stop your hand there and stop there. And you can actually make the perfect cast. But when I turn my back at you and turn into one or the other on the lesson, you go straight back to what you've, it's on your spine all the time. Yeah. So whenever you get the chance to just go to a casting instructor and get all the bad things cut away, because fly casting is so easy if you just know what's happening in your hand. Because I use too much power on my fly casting. I make so many false casts and all that. I can make a fly cast in a good way. It's not that part, but I use so much more power than necessarily. And he's often laughing at that part because he says, yeah, you should have been on my courses for like 20 years ago. You would have been a fantastic caster. Now it's your purpose is just to get the fly out to that part, and you can get that, but you use so much more power than you need to. So attend the classes there. Regarding fly tying, I think one of my good things about that part is being able to imagine the fly in your head when you start tying a fly. I often see people put a hook in the vise and put a lot of materials on, and they end up not being able to finish the hook because they filled up the gap with all the materials. So have this, take a piece of paper and a pencil and draw the fly with the feathers and all that stuff, and just get an idea of, okay, I need to put my head to this part, and I need to put my hackle at this part, and the tail at this part, and just imagine the fly being tied in your head before you actually put the hook in the vise, if it's a new type of fly hook. We're talking about this part of imagining the fly before you start tying it, and it has been a great help for me, because I could actually imagine the empty hook and then imagine the parts of the hook or the fly being put on. And I often try to give that further on when I have lessons in fly tying, just to make people get the idea of a head. It takes that much place, and a hackle takes this much. Of advice,
yeah. Especially even so for somebody that does lack the ability of drawing, which I do, if you at least list the materials that you're going to be putting on, it will be of tremendous help, right?
Yeah. I've done it a lot with tying these classic salmon flies, because you often have a hook, in many cases a handmade hook. I have some good friends who make the hooks themselves, and I often buy some of the hooks, and I put them on a piece of paper, or I take a photocopy of it, take a shot of it and print it out, and have this right sizing of the hook, and I often sit with a pencil and draw the lines of the hackle going to this part, and choosing the feathers comparing to the drawings I just made. They have this golden pheasant crest feathers that actually needs to to hit the same spot and have this specific shape, and I often use a lot of time on just making these drawings and choosing the right materials for those. And then that's another part, materials for flies. It's it's a world of its own.
It's a word of itself.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So,
what is one of your favorite events that happens on Europe or even your own country about fly fishing? What is a favorite event?
We have in Denmark. We have a big fly show every year, or it's going to be next year in February or March. We call it a fly fair, which is yeah, everybody knows each other. It's just it's like one big family party, and people meet up and have a lot of good talks and fantastic time together.
That's cool.
So I'm looking very much forward to that part. Besides, we look a little bit more out in the Europe. We have a show in England, in the UK, called British Fly Fair. We have attended that one for the last 2 years, and that's a fantastic show as well. A lot of people and a lot of fly tires just thrilled about meeting the guys behind the brand, and a lot of talks about fly hooks and fly fishing generally. It's fantastic. That's the thing I like the most about this business, that you can actually meet up with some of the big icons in fly fishing and just find out they're just they have the same passion as
Just
you
like
do.
you.
Yeah,
Just
and
like
nothing else by that. People just likes to share the passion of fly fishing, fly tying. That's fantastic. So whether you young or an old guy, it doesn't matter.
it doesn't matter.
You got a common passion about it. That's fantastic.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Let me see if I have any other. There was one question back in the other block that I'm gonna bring back.
Yeah.
It was about articulated hooks for flies or articulated flies. It was something about articulated hooks, or I think he meant to say articulated flies.
Yeah.
Just help me on this one. Yeah.
I showed this one earlier on. 2 hooks. The first hook is this one, the curved one I told you a little bit earlier about, and it has this. I don't know if you can see the connection here.
Right.
But
is that a nylon or is it a wire bite?
It's wire.
It's
and
wire.
Then and then connected with a few pearls, plastic pearls in between, just to keep the back hook positioned this way. For not snagging up here. It can do that, but it's very difficult to get it. And then the wire is quite stiff. You can actually see how it
doesn't bend that much, or
it
just go back into place right away.
Yeah. And then I use I tie the back hook as a regular fly, and then put the wire in the eye, and then mount it on the shank of the hook up here. And then often I double it. I put it. It's tied in at this point. At this point, and then all the way up to this point, and then reversed backwards. So it's double secured, and then with a lot of super glue and lac on top of it, just to make it hold. Because fishing with this big flies for trouts, you often get the big trout, and you don't want to lose that because you have been using some not that strong connection. So the connection at this part is very, very important. But
so let's just get back at the connection itself again, please. You don't put the wire inside the hook eye. No, you double it, folded it back on the hook shank. At this part, because this one is tied with deer hair, and it's super trimmed. So at this part, I think with this length, that's enough to secure the fly. Otherwise, I could be tying it up and putting it in the eye and then backwards again. Then that's probably the most secure hold on the fly you can actually make. I've been using these hooks I was fishing tropical in February, and I was fishing barracudas. And then I did that because that's a super strong fish. So I needed to put the wire in between the eye and backwards again, just to make sure that it didn't snag. But again, in that case, that you're aiming for trout, and does this completely
for trout, it's I would say if you use a very thick thread, like a 200 denier tying thread, and wrapping it very strong, it should do the trick. It should hold.
Fine.
Yeah, and just put some super glue on before you start tying the fly itself. It should hold whatever you can actually. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So
that's a very cool fly, by the way. It is a very cool fly.
It's a very cool fly. Yeah, that's fantastic. Fantastic tying.
Yes, it is. Look at the shape. This shape is fantastic. Yeah, so well trimmed and
and it actually
accentuates with the curve of the hook.
It does move like a Rapala wobbler. Yeah. You know, the diving position of it. Yeah, that's why it needed to be 26 degrees instead of 28.
All right. Yeah.
An eye for details.
Yeah, a lot of details.
Yeah.
As we talk about catch and release and sported fishing as a whole, what have you observed from the past years that has come in place, and what key insights would you give for, I don't know, anybody who's into the industry, is trying to also spread the word about catch and release, preservation, sustainability? Is the main aspect of the country legislation. Any key insights about this? Because developing countries, they struggle a lot on this because there's a lot of social barriers on this level. People that depend a lot, that live in misery, poverty, and depend on the fish, you know. So any key aspects that you would like to bring us from a developed country, or even the other countries in general? This topic that's so key important for us.
I do practice catch and release myself. I like to put the fish back in the water when I've caught it. Have a picture in my mind, or that's the part I like about it. But I also could take home a sea trout if I get it on the coastal fishing, because we have so many sea trouts around the coast in Denmark, so it doesn't damage the the amount of fish in the rivers. It's but of course, if everybody does it, it could be a problem. So many of my fishermen friends and colleagues, they often put the fish back again in the water, and we can actually see what an impact it gives on one thing, on the amount of fish in the rivers, on the streams, seas, and another thing is the value of a fish being caught by a fisherman, whether it's a spin fisherman or a fly fisherman. It doesn't really matter that much, but you can actually see how much money it gives to the community. Instead of the fish being caught in a net or being put in a factory. We go. I fish a lot in Norway, and if I would calculate on the value every time I catch a salmon, and if I bring it back home, the amount per kilo I've been spending for this specific salmon is amazing. I might as well just buy a Porsche for the same amount I've been using. But when I go fishing there, I use a lot of money on getting there, and I use a lot of money on the society. In the small village I live, I stay at a local farm by the river. I pay the owner of the river and fishing license and all that stuff, and it actually can make a living out of it for the people owning the fishing. So basically, in the economy of the country, it gives a lot back there at that part. And then I went to Greenland last autumn, fishing up there, and we saw this. We fished this fantastic river and caught a lot of char. And some of the local people went out there and they put this net in the river, and they caught some chars for themselves. And when they actually had these 12 or 20 chars or whatever they took it back home and sailed back home again. So they had enough for the rest of the season. And we could go on fishing, catch and releases as we do, but they have this idea about how much is the fish worth in the river. They need fish to eat, to survive, but
Yes.
they take just enough
The right
fish
amount,
for themselves to survive. They don't take that much out of it. Just, yeah.
You're not harvesting unnecessarily.
No.
For the sake of money and getting wealth about it. And just extracting from nature. They're getting what they need.
Yeah. Take what they need and nothing more for that. And we see it a lot in Norway, where we have problems with farm salmon entering the rivers. Yeah, that's not a very good thing. Actually, it's a very bad thing. But you can see and try to explain to the government of Norway that you can actually get more money out of letting salmon fishermen fish in the rivers for the fish instead of breeding them in the ocean and polluting and all the stuff they do there. But yeah, it's big bucks and it's a long way, but they kind of like they start to get the idea of that we have a point there. Catch and release does work, and fishing tourism in a way like that is more benefit than just farming salmon in a big net. And
yeah. Farm salmon, and then it's pretty big in Norway. It's the second or the first producer worldwide.
Yeah.
We import from Norway, and we import from Chile, Brazil. Import from Norway. So I could just only imagine. I understand that there's a big impact. I would not go in depth about the subject because I don't know. I actually have a master's degree in aquaculture. That's why I've studied all my life.
Yeah. Okay.
But it's just about tilapia, and I understand that if you introduce a lot of fish in a percentage of water, and you gotta feed them, that's gonna liberate nutrients and pollutants, and it is gonna aggravate during time. It concerns me at the period of time what's gonna happen and what has been happening, because Norway, the history about this is so much longer than I can only imagine. So
as I said, we went to Greenland, and just seeing this river almost untouched by human, and seeing the amount of fish was mind-blowing. I haven't seen that many fish in a river before, and even though that the chars up there the water is cold, so I thought, well, what would have happened if the same amount of fish have been in the rivers in Denmark, where we actually have a lot of insects and a lot of bugs? There would have been even more fish in the Danish rivers than they have in these cold glacier rivers in Greenland. Or we would have had some amazing fishing, but sadly we don't. So I know why. And that's a bit sad to think about that part, actually. That we have spoiled a lot in the human way of ruling the nature.
Oh yes, we're quite good at that. I understand
sadly.
that Norway came in as a big producer to distribute fish protein worldwide as salmon. But there are so many key important aspects that you study on the impact that you're going to produce in a certain environment that sustain this huge amount of fish. I don't know the bigger picture at all. I just can't imagine. So but hopefully we'll keep doing our job as to develop and spread the word of catch and release. Let's preserve. Let's try to be as sustainable as possible. Diminish our pollutants. Plastic, please no plastic. Let's avoid plastic at all times. Try to recycle it the best we can. Right?
That would be fantastic.
Great, buddy. Well, do you want to tie a fly, or are we on the time clock here?
Yeah, I could.
You don't have to. You don't have to, buddy. It's just.
Yeah, but
Like
I have my vise just next to me, and I have some material, so I could make a fly. I could make one of my favorite flies.
Make one of your favorite flies for
us,
please.
Yeah. I would just see
the
if I
audience
could.
is gonna love that. I'm gonna put it on YouTube. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see if I could. You can't see my vise, can you?
Let's see. Yep, I can see it now. Yep. Just gotta bend it a little bit.
Yeah. Like this.
Right. Yeah. What is the fly?
It's called it's a shrimp pattern. It's actually made by a Danish guy many years ago. He's a very skilled fly fisherman and fly tyer, and has a lot of good ideas about making these super realistic flies, but made for fishing, not for showing off.
Understand.
And he's made this fly. He's called it the Ölands space shrimp, and it's made with these feathers, which were meant to be a substitute for heron feathers.
Okay.
And later on, another guy, he found this salmon pink color. I don't know if you can see this. And you can see this is actually the feathers. They are
a little bit pinkish color. Yeah.
Yeah, they are super alive, these feathers. So that's what I'm gonna tie this fly with. The hook I'm using for this one is the SA 250. It's a slightly curved shrimp hook.
Okay.
Actually, the hook I was talking about when one of the first hooks we designed were this. We had the shrimp hook, and I talked to a friend of ours, and he said, "Well, how could I improve this hook?" And he said, "Well, give it a small bend." And we actually made the bend down here. I don't know if you can see it. It has
I can see it resembling the shrimp's body in a way.
Yeah. And that's actually cool. That's the guy invented or continued further on this Öland space shrimp. He called it the pedigrees. It's an owner of one of the big shops in Denmark, and that was his favorite hook, and he cool. Totally loved this one. So I'm gonna make my fly on this one today.
Perfect. Rasmus Jensen said, "Please tell Mr. Flareup to do more burpees."
Oh yeah. He can do just a little bit more himself. For starting this fly, I've chosen to make it this spay style shrimp.
Right.
Salmon shrimp.
You got some dubbing there?
Yeah, I put some dubbing on the hook, and I'm just gonna make a small bulb down on the back here. Just a small spot at this part.
Is it pink dubbing? I can't quite see it.
It's we call it shrimp, ghost shrimp, or shrimp orange. It's called. It's a very light pink.
Light pink.
Style.
Yep.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I take this spay cape as this part. I'll take out 2 feathers. This is a very popular fly on the Danish coastal fishing, and for a lot of other species. I've actually caught bonefish on this one on my recent trip. Yeah,
nice.
Yeah, I was walking this flat with my guide, and the guide, he looked at my fly and said, "Well, not that one." And he said, "You need to put a gotcha on." And I said, "Well, okay." And I put a gotcha on, and we saw this big school of bonefish, and we tried to get them, and they were spooked right away. And I said, "Could I put this one on?" And he looked at me and said, No, put a gotcha on." I said, "Well, am I going to go for a shot at this one?" Yeah, one shot.
Yep.
One cast, and there was a big bonefish just turning around, eating the fly. And he thought, "Well, okay, luck," he said.
Luck.
Yeah.
Admit it.
Yeah, and then took the fly out of the mouth of the fish, released it, and made another cast and got one more. And then he said, "Well, can I have a look in your fly box?" And now I'm missing 2 of those flies because he said, "Well, okay, they could do something."
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
I take this spay haggle and I turn it just after the point of the dubbing. Yeah, I use 2 feathers for this fly. The first one I just turn right after another down here. Mm-hmm. So like a regular haggle on a fly. Use the whole feather because it's very, very alive. You can see how easily it moves, these 3 feathers.
Yep, I can see that.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah. Like this, and then I tie it down, and I often go a little bit up just to make the feathers point backwards.
Yeah.
I need to put a little bit of weight on the fly to get it down. So I use a little bit of lead wire.
Perfect. And you're starting at...
I'm just putting a little bit of thread on the hook shank just to secure it. A few wraps of this. Cutting it off. And then securing with the tying thread. I put it on the top point of the hook here. Just to make, because I need this fly to go upside down whenever I'm fishing with it. That's a big benefit of this hook style because it has this bend that it actually, you can make it turn upside down. You can fish very shallow waters. That's probably one of the reasons why it works so well when I fished the tropics for bonefish, because you can actually fish a fly upside down on corals and all that. All the other flies were just snagged right away, but this one could actually kick off the corals and
slide between the structures.
Yeah, absolutely. Now I would have put a little bit of glue or varnish on the point here, but this one I think it would work pretty good. Okay. I turn the hook upside down, and then I have some fur here, some hairs, the same what do you call the same color as my haggle. You can make this one in. I use this pink color for this fly, but you could use it tan or white or black or whatever gray you need. Just the color that's your local shrimps has. I haven't seen any slightly pink shrimps in my home waters at the coast, but the color is just fantastic for the fish. So I don't know if the fish is colorblind or whatever they are, but this color actually works very, very good.
Okay.
Yeah. So a few strands of hair on this part. I'm gonna take a little bit more of dubbing. Make a little bulb just after the tying point of the hair, like this. And then I take, I have some monofilament line, some
What diameter is that?
0.25 or 20, I think. Yeah, quite thin. I put it on this point and then tie it down.
Is that for the eyes later on?
No, it's because I have a plastic bag, a shrimp shell. I'm gonna put on the fly.
Oh, nice, cool.
Yeah. You could put a piece of the hook pack. You can cut a piece of this plastic. Just cut this one out, or you can use one of these shrimp shells, like this one. It's actually pre-cut, and it has eyes of the shrimp, and it has the tail of the shrimp, and it has the shape of the shrimp all the way up. Yeah. That's a Scandinavian product made by one of my buddies, and I like that one.
What's the name of the
that's it's called Pro Sportsfisher. and he has these shrimp shells.
Very
I can
cool.
I can send you the
Later on, yeah.
the instruction on the fly, and I could put the names on there.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
We'll share it on the subscription on the description of the episode.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, cool.
I take the next feather here. I've removed all the fluffy parts, or almost the fluffy. I've kept a little bit of the fluffy part down here, but the very marabou-ish, I've taken that away. And
Okay.
I tied down at just after the second bulb of the dubbing, and tie in the feather. Cut the stem away on the top of here. So now I have my feather, and I have my monofilament grip, and I'm gonna build up the body by dubbing. And I'll take a little bit more of this. It's actually a quite fun story about this dubbing. It's when I started tying flies, or tying coastal flies for like 20 years ago, we had this dubbing brand. It's called Semi Seal. It was kind of like seal, natural seal dubbing, and it was not the real deal. So they have made this by some synthetic materials, but it looks fantastic. And I've always thought about this specific semi-seal dubbing in the years to come, because I didn't buy enough at that part, so very quickly I ran out of it. And then I was attending a fly fishing show last year in Denver, Colorado, in the US, and I actually met some guys, and they have reintroduced this dubbing, and they have actually made the semi-seal brand again. So I was sitting with these guys, and they've actually, well, have a look at this dubbing. And I said, well, semi-seal, is it real, the semi-seal? Yeah. I was like, what are the odds for that? And they have actually...
Yeah, what are the odds?
Yeah, so my favorite dubbing material just came back to life
in front of your eyes.
at a burger joint in Denver. That's amazing.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. I made the dubbing.
Yep.
A thick body of dubbing here, and I take this feather, and I need to make it the right.
Constantly aligning it back because it's a long feather, right?
Yeah, it's very alive feather here, and then open wraps all the way up to the eye.
Okay. Wrapping all the way back to the back part of the eye hook.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it doesn't look like a shrimp at this point. I know that, but it will be.
It will be. Yeah.
It will be. Yeah. Now it just looks like something fuzzy stuff. Yeah.
Yep.
You
still have a loosened nylon back there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Tie it back on. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Because that's kind of connect the whole thing. Yeah.
So now I'm gonna tie in this feather.
Yep.
This. And that's the problem with these heron feathers substitutes. They are so alive, and it's impossible to get a hold on them. But that's the idea about the feather. Yeah.
Because they're very beautiful, but I can understand they're technical, that aspect. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I cut off the tip of like this. It looks
on the
very
water, huh?
Yeah, it looks very fuzzy here, but I'm just gonna
pretty cool. Yeah.
Brush it a little bit here, and then because I need to make this one go upside down, so I need to have all the feathers, all the fibers going downwards.
Could you just adjust a little bit of the lightning so it doesn't get too whitish on the... Okay, that's a little bit better. Yep.
Is that better? Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Much better, yeah.
Yeah, okay, great. And now I take this shrimp back, and I put it on the fly like this.
Okay.
and I just, with a few wraps, I tie it down in the front, just to secure it a little bit.
Very cool.
So like this, and then I go with my nylon rib.
There you go. It's gonna be the rib.
And with the needle, because it's...
You gotta move the feather away.
Yeah, and then I need to go the opposite way than I've tied the haggle. So I'm gonna secure the haggle by tying it down all the way up here.
That's pretty cool.
And then using my needle to get all these feathers and dubbing not being totally tied down.
Do you have any alternative recommendations for the body itself of the shrimp?
I guess the biggest thing would be that if it's difficult to get a hold on the feathers, these spay feathers, you can tie this fly with the marabou, or just the regular haggles.
Saddle haggles.
Yeah, rooster cap haggles. Yeah. That's also very good. But I just like the idea about this feather. They just have so much movement in the water. It's amazing to see them.
Pretty cool.
Yeah. Now I've taken 4 or 5 wraps of ribbing up against, and then I tie in this ribbing part. And like we talked about with the articulated flies, securing it. And I do that a lot with when tying my flies, where I actually take the materials, if I tie it in front, tie it down, and then reverse. So we get a little bit more hold on the materials. And I've done that the same with the feathers here.
Pretty cool.
Yeah. And then making the head, using my whip finish. It still doesn't look that good, but it's going to.
It already resembles. We can see it. Yep.
Yeah. Cut off this part and my nylon rib, and then I need to brush.
Is that both for dubbing and the feathers, right?
Yeah.
Getting a little bit more volume in the. Yeah.
Yeah. Getting a little bit of more volume in, and getting the feathers to have the right point and the right shape. Yep. So now we're starting to getting there.
Yep.
I take it. Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. That's a super effective fly. That's one of my favorite flies.
See the whole thing, yeah. Nice.
So you get this upside down style of the fly.
Yeah, and it must have posed a lot on the water.
Yeah, because now I just put a hand on all these loose materials, because as I just you can see how the movement of it just
a lot of
by me talking to the fly, it's actually moving a lot here, and it's so alive. It's close to marabou, but a little bit more stronger and a little bit more fine than marabou.
Understand.
I like this one. That's
pretty cool. What is the name of it again?
The pig, or the pedigrees, but a pig like these small pink baby pigs.
Oh yeah.
That's where it comes from. That's the name of it.
Pretty cool, man. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, absolutely, no problem. That's
fantastic.
I could take a photo of it and ship it to you, so you could show it.
Oh yeah.
So you can actually see what it is, because it's very difficult to get a hold of it
Well,
up
once
against
we
this
close the
t-shirt.
deal on hooks, you send it with them for me.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah. I got a big pack of hooks, and you put it in.
Yeah,
I'll appreciate that.
That would be a great deal.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sure, we're gonna do that.
yeah.
So, yeah, you can go back to you. There you go.
Yeah.
Nice. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
Would you like to give our audience any more message for our listeners?
Again, I would say just enjoy the hobby, enjoy the passion of going fishing, enjoy being out there in the nature, and just again this coronavirus thing, just being able to go out and enjoy this kind of hobby we have, this passion for go fishing. That's just amazing. So keep safe out there, and keep safe on our waters and protect our waters. That's important. I have some kids myself, and I would love to be taking them out fishing in many years to come, and being able to give them the same things that actually started my fishing time with my dad in the days. Could I give them the same experience? That would be fantastic. So stay safe out there and take care of our nature.
Soren, thank you very much for joining us.
Absolutely welcome. A pleasure.
Yeah,
a pleasure.
Time to share the valuable information about hooks. Also, a great fly that you tied on for us.
Yeah, I hope you like it.
Yeah, I did, and I'm sure everybody that watched us and the future listeners are going to love it.
Yeah,
and
I hope so.
Thanks a lot, man. Stay safe.
Yeah, absolutely, and you too. And the same to you.
And
I
Ahrex hooks soon.
Ahrex hooks. Yeah. And I would see if I could get this fly to go across the Atlantic to your post box. I would go for that one.
That's pretty cool. Thanks a lot.
You're welcome.
See you later.
A pleasure. You too. Bye.
Take care.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.